And we are live. Welcome back to Gem in the Crypto episode 471. Today is Tuesday, September 17th, and I'm King, here to bridge the gap between community and crypto, of course, Monday through Friday. And today we have a lot of good stories for you. Bitcoin is the fraud, ? JP Morgan Metals desk fixed gold prices for years, looks like. Wells Fargo to pilot dollar-linked stablecoin for internal settlement. CFTC appoints former Coinbase exec as director of market oversight. VanEck withdraw Bitcoin ETF proposal from SEC review. U.S. Army seeks blockchain experts who can trace Bitcoin real time. And last but not least, Los Angeles mayor's office hosts blockchain startup competition. That is right. What's going on? Allison Thompson, first one in here, just popped in. As we wait for this to load up, go ahead and go over these prices. Again, not much of a change. Ethereum, if anything, I've seen some of the bigger price jumps, as well as Ripple. But Bitcoin is coming in at $10,210 a day, down 1.11%. Ethereum is at $212 today, up 6.28%. So good job for Ethereum. No, they're in the news. Litecoin at $75, up 3%. Ripple XRP is at 29 cents, up 10.6% on the day. Bitcoin Cash at $323, up 4.74%. But as we say, none of these prices are anything to get excited about. Still a lot of stuff happening in the next few weeks that can really determine the outcome of the price point in Bitcoin for the next quarter. So as I've been saying, right now I'm just kind of in this circling pattern, this holding pattern, see what happens, and just being patient. So we'll see what happens. What's going on, Christopher Law? Top story of the day. Bitcoin is the fraud. JP Morgan Metals desk fixed gold prices for years. That is right. JP Morgan has committed yet another crime which no one will be arrested for. The United States' largest bank faced fresh ridicule from Bitcoin circles this week after prosecutors said traders had conducted more market fraud. As Bloomberg reported on September 16, JP Morgan Chase is facing an inquiry over the behavior of at least a dozen precious metal traders. Looks like JP Morgan may have performed thousands of illegal moves. According to investigators, the employees willfully engaged in price fixing of precious metals on thousands of occasions. Both market participants and JP Morgan's own clients suffered losses as a result, they claim. Based on the fact that it was conduct that was widespread on the desk, it was engaged in thousands of episodes over an 8-year period. We're going to follow the facts wherever they lead, whether it's across desk here or at any other bank or upwards in the financial institution. Bloomberg quoted Assistant Attorney General Brian Bekenchowski as saying, which no one really believes because we know the truth. Of course, they go on this article to talk about how JP Morgan CEO Jamie the Dino Dimon has always talked about Bitcoin being a fraud itself. And I mean, this is coming, when you really look at the totality of the story, first of all, it's coming off of 3 or 4 weeks ago, JP Morgan, a ship owned by them, had billions of dollars of cocaine on it, just disappeared from the news literally the same day it was reported. But then you talk about this trading desk where they may have performed thousands of illegal moves over an 8-year period. This is 1 to 2 years after the financial crisis, the economic crisis, the housing crisis of 2008. You're telling me by the time 2010 hits, 2 years after the crisis of which banks actually caused, we now have evidence that they're going right back to business doing this same thing they've been doing. And this time with the metals market, we actually have evidence, something we've been saying for forever, that gold has been manipulated. It's ridiculous that the price of gold has not swayed in the last however many years. Has been under control of basically government and large scale organizations and banks like this. But everybody wants to talk about gold. Gold is a safe haven. You put your money in gold. As we always say, if you were to do that, it makes no sense because you would never be able to retrieve it, first of all, because you don't have a wheelbarrow to bucket around gold in, nor do you have security to secure it. And then also it comes to the point where it is being manipulated. The proof is officially in the pudding. We can see it now. As they said, Bloomberg's reporting on this. Investigators are going after these people. I'm sure they find out, but this is what they did 2 years after the financial crisis, and they've been doing this since then. So another reason why whenever I hear about regulators wanting to regulate Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, it's like regulate the markets that the world relies on already, i.e. the gold and precious metals market. That's something that everyone says has been around the world relies on it, is backed, all this good stuff. Well, let's regulate that. Let's not worry about cryptocurrency. And then the same thing. You expect to tell me these same traders at this same company only decided to manipulate precious metals and gold. You tell me they didn't do that with the fiat market at all. They're still not currently doing it with the fiat market. I find that hard to believe. And an even bigger thing, you need to understand, they're talking about thousands of illegal moves. This is JP Morgan, the largest bank on the planet. One move by them in the proper direction for them could benefit them by billions of dollars. So we're talking about thousands of billion-dollar moves, people. I'm talking about this could be, this could have $1 trillion impact on the plus minus when it comes to their company as a whole. So when you look at that, and again, we talk about regulation and all this stuff in cryptocurrency. This is why we say we're not anti-government. It's just that we know they're doing corrupt things. They're pointing the gun in the wrong direction because all the legacy institutions we have around are still doing the same dirty things they've been doing. They got them in trouble before. They keep paying the fine, rinse, wash, repeat. So it's crazy to see that right now. What's going on, Sergeant Crypto? Sergeant Crypto said the alts are pumping. They are. FATF and all the other alphabet boys need to investigate those scumbags, but no one is going to jail. You already know it. What's going on, Antonio Trek, PFC Wills? What's up? What's up? But again, this story is just disheartening for me to even see this. It's crazy. It's like the largest bank on the planet is committing fraud in our country. And again, I know this stuff happens, but it's just the fact where it's like when they talk down to you and they kind of send you, it's almost like stumping on somebody you already beat up. It's like, come on, what are you like? Yeah, you violated now. Like, you don't stump the guy out. It was a fair fight. He lost. Pick him up. Go your separate ways. But when the government comes after things like crypto and says it's for criminals, and they keep coming in this industry direction, meanwhile, again, those legacy institutions, the legacy ways of doing business like precious metals, the biggest bank on the planet here in the United States, in New York City, they're allowed to continuously do corrupt things and break the law, but everyone else is supposed to follow the rules, or you're known as a bad boy and girl in American society. So we always like to bring these stories up because it's just something to think about when you do, the alternative ways of doing things like banking, when you talk about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and everyone looks at you like crazy, but you're like, but you have a JP Morgan Chase account and they're manipulating the entire precious metals market. So you can't always listen to media, of course, and some of those main talking points and narratives that are out there. Speaking of JP Morgan, I want to make sure I put Wells Fargo out here. Wells Fargo is looking to pilot a dollar-linked stablecoin for internal settlement. Basically, they want to create their own Ripple or their own Fed Now coin for internal settlement. What's crazy, again, as they tried to create this, if they were to use Bitcoin amongst themselves in their own company, they would still save so much money starting today. Yet they are so anti-Bitcoin, they don't even want to swap over and save all that good money. They rather spend money to develop their own internal system. Again, when we talk about Bitcoin, the internet of money, this is what we saw in 1999 with internet, with websites. All these companies said, we don't want this. We don't want internet, to be public, or we don't want our websites to be public. We want an intranet. We want to create our own Wells Fargo internet. We want to create our own JP Morgan internet. And what happened with that? How many companies still use intranets? I mean, they have their own servers, they have their own local networks they run, but how many companies are really using their own intranet? It just doesn't make sense for them to do it because the internet being public has more resources for everyone, right? This is the same thing. Instead of Wells Fargo saying we're going to use Bitcoin, which is the internet of money that has a public domain, plenty of resources, is never down, or if it is down, there are plenty of developers working on it. No, we're going to spend a lot of money to create our very own, to try to rival Bitcoin with our own in-house developers and resources. So again, it makes no sense, but whatever. I get the money play behind it because if it is successful, of course, places like Wells Fargo say, hey, we can market this to the world like Mark Zuckerberg and the Libra project is doing. And if it works, then we can make some money. The only problem is, though, is that these are these same narrow-minded executives that don't understand it won't work. No one wants to have a Wells Fargo coin one day. But hopefully, U.S.-based financial giant Wells Fargo can use their own coin they're developing. Again, this is a U.S. dollar-linked stablecoin that will run on the firm's first blockchain platform. Dubbed Wells Fargo Digital Cash, the tokenized dollar will be used in a pilot initially for internal settlement across the company's business. Of course, the key word is initially, as I said. I'm sure as a business, the game plans to initially use it and try to market it to other banks, businesses, corporations, or even customers and get people to actually use it. The firm said in a press release on Tuesday that the digital token will enable to settle internal cross-border payments across its global network. Its international locations will also be able to move funds between each other using token. I kind of see this working, if banks or if the world decides to go toward cryptocurrency, I can see banks having a stable coin because they'll say, hey, on our platform, you can't use your fiat currency to go straight into exchange, or maybe they even develop their own exchange. What if Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, everybody has their own exchange, right? They're saying you can't use your fiat currency to go to that, but you can use our stable coin, which of course will have a small processing fee to transfer it over. Of course, if you charge everyone 1%, you're making money. And then with that fee, you can buy crypto. You can store your crypto in the same account as you do your US dollars, which of course would be a terrible idea. But because so many people don't know about the ins and outs of cryptocurrency, they'll say, fine, let's do it. And then they'll go to work on Monday morning bragging to everyone about how their new Wells Fargo account can also hold their Bitcoin and all that other good stuff. But they don't have access to their private keys. Don't worry. So again, I'm basically telling you in the future, it'd be hard pressed for this not to happen because it is such an easy segue of business moves, I think, in my personal opinion. And I also believe that if they were to do it, again, we're talking about market share here. It's still very early, and they could definitely capture some market share. So I would never be surprised to see this actually happen. But even more important about this story, I saw a tweet today. It looks like Warren Buffett owns 10% of Wells Fargo. So this is the same person now in two stories back to back. You got Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan Chase, and then Warren Buffett from Wells Fargo. Two billionaires telling you all about why Bitcoin is a fraud, it's fake, it's crap, it's all this negative stuff. Yet both of these people and their companies own a share of the blockchain industry and cryptocurrency industry already, and they're telling everyone not to do it. Again, this is what we talk about as far as the mainstream organizations, big government, big banks, trying to ensure all the wealthy people get their hands on cryptocurrency and Bitcoin before any more poor people do it before them. So something to pay attention to. Sergeant Crypto said, well, Scammo is owned by Warren Buffett. I thought he didn't like, exactly, right. So same thing. PFC Will said, the whole do as I say, not as I do. Exactly. Don't worry, people. The clownery continues today as we congratulate, I guess, the new CFTC appointee. It looks like the CFTC, that is right, Commodity and Futures Trading Commission, has appointed former Coinbase executive as the director of market oversight. You have to be kidding me. All right. I mean, you know the words I really want to say. This is the same thing we saw with the banks. Goldman Sachs executive all of a sudden goes over to the Treasury Department. JP Morgan executive all of a sudden goes over to the CFTC or the SEC, and vice versa. 2 or 3 years later, the Treasury Department sends someone over to Goldman Sachs. 2 or 3 years later, the SEC, the IRS, or whoever sends somebody back over to JP Morgan. This is the same thing. So first of all, shout out to the Coinbase exec and as well as Coinbase for getting in when you fit in. Listen, serious shout out from a business point of view, because again, if I was Coinbase, I'll be doing the same thing. If you remember, beginning of this year and last year, we kind of called it. We said Coinbase started hiring all these executives on Wall Street and all these old regulators. They got the TD Ameritrade guy in there. They got the person over from Facebook over there. They got a couple other people who were prior regulators working for them. Their compliance officer, I think, was a prior regulator. So you got all these people now working for Coinbase. It's only natural that a year or 2 years later, all right, time to spin you all right back out the door, different people with different positions. We need to get somebody in the CFTC. We need to get somebody in the SEC. We need to get somebody in the IRS. We need to make sure all these government positions are filled with people a part of the Coinbase fraternity. So the next 20 or 30 years down the line, there's not going to be anything corrupt going on, of course. But if you were to give me that friendly phone call and I give you that one back, send you that friendly gift on Christmas or whatever, we can make sure the regulation gets passed so we can continue to be successful, and all our competition does not. I mean, this is that move, people. It is what it is. Coinbase's vice president, Dorothy D. DeWitt, will now serve as director of the Division of Market Oversight at the United States Commodity and Futures Trading Commission. That is right. If you're anything like me and you're asking yourself, why would an executive at a startup company that's already on its way to being a unicorn, possibly IPOing or IEOing for $10 to $14 billion, why would you want to leave that to go work for a public position with a public salary, a service job, overworked and underpaid? Why would you ever want to do that, people? Who would turn away that type of money? And that is, in my opinion, only because, again, this is basically a mole for Coinbase. The CFTC knows it as well. They're not upset. If anything, everyone's shaking hands and they're giving Brian that slap on the back. Like, you understand how to do government business now. But it looks like the U.S. CFTC chairman Heath P. Tarbert announced on September 17th that DeWitt will take responsibility for the CFTC's oversight over derivatives platforms and swap data repositories, as well as other new platform traded products. Again, I'm not saying this person's underqualified. They're probably overqualified, right? They probably know what they're doing. And for a government position, taxpayers should be happy we have someone this skilled in that position, because they are not even probably, they are underpaid. They're leaving Coinbase as an executive and they're going to a public government position. They are underpaid, right? And I'm sure they still have stock in Coinbase. But the bigger thing is, as great as this person is for the position, you are really telling me in the next few years here, as an oversight director of derivatives platforms and swap data repositories, something that Coinbase is directly going into a market of, they're not going to do anything to help them or to keep any type of competition away from them. I find that very hard to believe. It's human nature. If I had a best friend or someone or somewhere, I mean, for sure, you can definitely be professional. But again, when you're talking about billions of dollars online, possibly trillions of dollars, you're telling me this is not going to happen one time with anyone. I just find it hard to believe. But again, shout out to Dorothy on that appointment. And again, appointment, keyword, appointment. She was appointed. Somebody from CFTC said, hey, Coinbase, you got anybody to come work for us? Coinbase said, yes, we do. We're going to send you one of our top executives who is well sought after, very experienced and skilled. We're sorry to see her go, but we're happy you all got her because she's serving the American government, or excuse me, the American public now. Come on, people. This is ridiculous. But again, it doesn't surprise me. We're going to see a lot more of this. It won't just be from Coinbase. Start seeing Gemini get in the mix with some of their people going back and forth. It's already actually started with them. Binance, if they actually want to come into the U.S. market fully, they'll do it. BitMEX and so on and so forth. It does not surprise me. Again, it's just kind of that arrogance of we're going to stump you while you're down and basically act like this isn't happening right in front of you. But again, you're not allowed to do X, Y, and Z in the crypto community because it's considered illegal, right? Again, people, you got to keep your eyes open with this type of stuff. It's very interesting to see, and we'll see what happens in the next 6 months to a year when it comes to Coinbase and some of their new products they offer in that derivatives and swap market. So we'll see what happens. Sergeant Crypto said crypto exchanges are the new banks, so they might as well get it started. Exactly. Like I said, it doesn't surprise me, people. We've already seen it. It's just the fact that it's blatantly happening over again in front of us that's kind of catching me off guard. And with all this news, there's some unfortunate news that goes along with all this. Van Eck and SolidX withdraw Bitcoin ETA proposal from SEC review. Now, I will say this. They took longer than us, but they basically came to the same realization that we came to a couple years ago when we were basically told by a very high-powered lawyer who works at SEC that they are not accepting any type of applications for ETFs for retail investors. We are talking about how we can get communities to invest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, mom and pops, retail investors, those who aren't wealthy. The SEC basically said we do not want this to happen. This was back in 2016, 2017. And it looks like they're continuing on this course. And even crazier, I mean, a sign of it is just the previous stories we saw. What did we see? We saw JP Morgan being pointed out again for doing something wrong. Wells Fargo back in the news for trying to get their own crypto project started. And then, of course, Coinbase sending somebody over to CFTC. So it does not surprise me that within the same 24 to 48 hours, the smaller guys out there, the Van Ex and the SolidX, which are still pretty big, but smaller in terms of, hey, we want to bring an ETF for the whole retail market. The SEC is like, well, are you NASDAQ? Like, who are you? You just a couple of hedge funds or a couple of smaller companies? So they withdrew that proposal, basically. And if you remember, they've been getting basically jerked around for the last couple years where every 6 months, every 4 months, the SEC says we'll review your ETF again. These are the reasons why we can't do it now. There is no reason why retail investors cannot invest in an ETF, a Bitcoin ETF. You're telling me we can do futures. All the wealthy people out there are allowed to invest in some type of Bitcoin derivative. But if you're not at least making $1 million in net worth access or making $250,000 a year to be an accredited investor, you're not allowed to even invest now legally unless you buy it yourself. In most places, You can't even buy it yourself without basically being under government watch at this point. This is absolute madness. But it looks like Cboe BZX Exchange withdrew its VanEck/SolidX Bitcoin exchange traded fund proposal on Tuesday. According to a filing dated September 17th, a proposal rule change to publicly list shares of the VanEck/SolidX Bitcoin Trust was withdrawn on September 13th. A decision on the proposal had already been delayed a number of times, and the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission faced a final deadline of October 18th to determine whether to approve or reject what could have been one of the first Bitcoin ETFs in the country. The news comes weeks just after VanEck and SolidX began offering shares of the trust to qualified institutional buyers, entities with at least $100 million in assets owned or invested. We talked about this under a Rule 144A exemption. And the nearly 3 weeks since first announcing the product, one basket of 4 Bitcoin worth about $40,000 was TKTK. Now, when they were talking about the ETF, their product, the head of ETF product, Ed Lopez, told CoinDesk, "We still strongly believe the marketplace and many investors would be better served to have a regulated product out there, and this is just one small step toward that, and right now it happens to be only available to institutions." So what they did here is exactly what we were told. Verbatim, I was told from a very high-powered lawyer coming from the SEC regulator that if I wanted to do any type of investment fund or hedge fund, and this was back in 2016, 2017, before all these hundreds of hedge funds popped up, then we were not allowed to accept any retail money. We could only do accredited investors. We were being pushed that way back then. So I can only imagine the pressure of someone like VanEck and SolidX. I mean, this move to only do institutions makes sense now. They've been pushing the ETF for I don't know how long. They've been trying to get the community involved, retail investors involved, all that good stuff. To be fair, they have not had any mainstream help. You talk about the United States. If retail investors wanted to really invest, they could simply vote on it. They can go to these town hall meetings. They can support the VanEck and SolidX. So clearly they did not receive that support. So they said, fine, we'll just do institutions. Now you need to have at least 100 million to play our game. That's exactly what the SEC wanted. That's what they decided to do. And again, they learned that lesson where, hey, if you're not offering us any of your executives on our SEC council, or if you're not hiring any of our retirees, then you all just need to stick to institutions and play this game. But again, it just goes in that line of 4 separate articles highlighting the same thing. And that's literally just the corruption that's going on at this point in our government level when it comes to cryptocurrency. Everyone hates crypto. Something must be really good about it. Now, another government agency that is not, that's pretty smart. I was going to say that's not as stupid as some of the other ones, but, a smarter agency, the U.S. Army seeks blockchain experts who can trace Bitcoin in real time. So definitely want to shout out this story for any of the vets out there or people who do anything with the military. It looks like if you know a little bit about this blockchain technology and how to trace Bitcoin, which you all should know because you can just go to blockchain.info and see it. The United States Army United States Army Contracting Command of New Jersey has issued a pre-solicitation notice for cryptocurrency investigation service providers. It looks like what they're looking for is a cryptocurrency analytics solution, which will basically be a cloud-based online service, not reliant on hardware or software, that can assist law enforcement in identifying and pursuing actors using cryptocurrencies for illicit purposes such as fraud, extortion, and money laundering, of course. This sounds like they're just looking for API. They want an API, something they can sign on to, check out some addresses, see if they match where they're going, and somebody who can actually read it and print out a 1-paragraph report for whoever's in charge so they can fully understand everything, all the data you just looked at. They understand what's going on, right? This, to me, just looking at it, just off the top of my head, it doesn't seem like something that's very difficult to build. An API that can link to the Bitcoin blockchain and basically just put out a proof of certain addresses you're looking for. It's something that's out there to build. And if you're a person who is coding or was developing something like this, you probably can get it sold to the United States Army. And with those contracts, you could probably make a lot of money. So I wanted to shout out this project. Shout out the U.S. Army. What is it? What do you all do? Is it hoorah? Hoorah, hoorah. No, Army, there we go. We'll shout you all out. And again, it's one of those things where, all our financial institutions in the United States, or all the regulators of financial institutions, are telling you to stay away from all this technology. The military is looking at it like, what? bring it on. Like, we need this technology. They know how it works. You talk about the supply chain and military itself, how much money and time we could save. It works. It's good to see. And again, shout out to the U.S. Army. Last but not least, Los Angeles Mayor's Office hosts blockchain startup competition. That is right. LA is a place to be. For crypto, looks like the Los Angeles Mayor's Office of Budget and Innovation and the city's Information Technology Agency, WOW, the ITALA, have partnered with Gorin Home Ventures, GHV, to host a blockchain startup contest called Blockchain. According to Gorin Home Ventures press release published on September 16th, the event will take place in front of a panel of celebrity judges at investment-focused blockchain conference CIS. Looks like winners will receive a $25,000 minimum investment offer from GHV and a $25,000 pilot project with the city. Ted Ross, the City of Los Angeles CIO, said, utilizing cutting-edge technologies to improve the lives of Los Angelinos has always been a priority for ITALA. We're excited for our partnership with GHV to explore and source blockchain solutions at CIS. They're looking for pilot projects for environmental sustainability, of course, SoCal environment, that's going to be there. Online voting and secure resident IDs. 4 startups will be chosen by the city to be judged by the panel, including billionaire investor and Bitcoin proponent Tim Draper, which that's pretty cool to see him there as well. Knowing Tim Draper, if you have a good enough idea, you can scratch that. That's why they put minimum, the $25,000 minimum. You can scratch that $50,000 from GHV in the city. If your idea is that good and you get in front of Tim Draper, he's about to Mark Cuban Shark Tank it. He's going to be like, all right, look, I'm going to give you this deal right now. You got 10 seconds to decide. Like, no cap on your money, whatever you need to get this project done, as well as myself and my resources. But you have to say no to GHV in the city of Los Angeles right now. And people are like, Tim, we'll come with you. But this is super cool to see. I was almost leery of it at first, I'm not going to lie, because as of lately, they've been arresting a lot of people in Los Angeles and Southern California in general, as we talk about some of these stories for cryptocurrency offenses happening back in 2015 and 16 of you sold crypto to a person you didn't know, well, you must have been operating an unlicensed money exchange. You need to go to 5, 10, 20 years in prison, right? There's been a lot of that going on in Southern California. So the only thing I would say about a competition like this is make sure your project is one of these ones that are looking for the environmental ones, something where you can have some backing from the government. Because if you go in there with another project that cuts them out, basically, they're going to figure out a way to prosecute you. They're going to be like, oh, so you're running this or whatever. Did you know you don't have the regulation, or this isn't in law yet for you to be doing whatever new innovative thing you're thinking of? So be careful. It could definitely be a honeypot. Again, they've been arresting a lot of people out here in the cryptocurrency space, so something to watch out for. Other than that, that is the show for today. As always, thanks for watching. The news has been slowing down a wee bit. I think that's because everybody's in anticipation of that backed futures launch next week. Of course, Binance has just launched their U.S. futures and all that good stuff. So it remains to be seen in the next 2 weeks, but I can't wait. Exciting time as always. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you smash that like and share, and we will see you all tomorrow. Cheers.